So good afternoon, all. Thank you for coming here. It shows a lot of interest. Mr. Chairman, sir, thank you for the invitation. Mr. Garg and Dr. Garg, thank you for the invite. I'd like to share a few things which are basically the pain points for the hydrogen economy to kick off in India. And in the process, I will try and draw on some examples which we have from around the world. But I'll take just 10 seconds to start this conference with a Rig Vedic slok which talks about the value of these conferences. So in the Vedas, there's the slok, Ano Bhadra Kratvo Yantu Vishwatah Avadhaso Aparitas Udivdha. Let noble thoughts come to you from all directions. Avadhaso, unhindered, Aparitas, undefeated, and Udivdha, that which can uplift the entire human race. So these conferences do exactly that, bring about an exchange of knowledge and ideas, and we should have more of these. So talking about hydrogen, I start with an anecdote. So in 1875, a gentleman called Jules Verne, he wrote that water will one day be employed as fuel, hydrogen and oxygen will constitute it, which used singly or together will furnish an inexhaustible source of heat to light on an intensity of which coal is not capable of. So therefore, 150 years before, people thought that hydrogen one day could be the source of energy. Now, hydrogen, basically, it's a buzzword in everything we do. I mean, in all the energy pathways we talk about hydrogen. IPCC does say that by 2050, 10 to 15% of the energy mix will be hydrogen. Hydrogen has been used in energy. In fact, there is this concept of Hindenburg syndrome. In the Second World War, or just before that, people were flying. There was a flight on helium. They changed it to hydrogen, and the entire aircraft exploded, and people died. So they had used hydrogen 100 years ago. But that did not sort of go forward because fuel from fossil fuels became the mainstay of energy globally. So basically, there are three areas in which hydrogen will play a key role. One is, of course, the replacement of 100 metric tons of gray hydrogen that we are using today, and that's made from coal. It's used in the refineries, in the manufacture of ammonia and methanol. Long-distance transportation will rely upon hydrogen, and green steel, the DRI process, will require hydrogen. And I'll not go into the details, but... Oh, sorry. I'll not go into too much of details on this one, but essentially what we are saying is these are the three areas where we have to concentrate to be able to get hydrogen into the mix. Now, the first area, and we will talk a little bit about first the difference between India and China. In our policy, the hydrogen mission, we have a lot of discussions around what we should be doing with hydrogen and how we are going to grow. And there is a 5 metric ton green hydrogen by 2030 at $2 per kg and all of it. The difference between India and China's policies are these. We've said only green hydrogen. China is more integrated. They're saying hydrogen. Even if it is gray, or it's made from coal, or it's made from steam methane reforming of methane, natural gas, all is good. But what you do is essentially ensure that you don't belch out the CO2 in the process into the atmosphere. So capture the CO2 and put it into the ground, or utilize it, CCUS, and they have 3 or 4 plants which are going. So therefore, it has integrated the energy pathways to be able to live with fossil fuels and at the same time get hydrogen to replace some of those fossil fuels. The reason why they're doing it is, if you're just talking about green hydrogen, the dependency on wind and solar is so high that people will wait for the rain to fall and it will never happen. Or it will happen, but at a very slow pace. So China has moved away from that. And lo and behold, they are producing 1/3 of the hydrogen globally. They have 150 fuel stations for hydrogen. And I will take you to a very nice offshore plant which is running on which is making hydrogen offshore. This is a gravity-based structure that they have, and they make hydrogen here. And they have electrolyzers. The power comes from the solar panels which they have on this, but also on floating structures around this, PVs. And they use the seawater and by desalinating it, so roughly 1 kg of hydrogen would take 10 liters of water. So it is a hugely water-intensive enterprise. And lo and behold, they have done away with the risks of that because they're using it. They're using the offshore saline water and desalinating it, using the energy that they're creating. The CO2 is a DAC, direct air capture. So they capture the CO2 in this plant, and then out of that they make ammonia and methanol. Ammonia is Haber-Bosch process, and methanol, they are using any process that, and there are a lot of processes for combining CO2 and hydrogen to make methanol. So essentially what they do is they bunker it to the ship directly, the methanol and the ammonia, and therefore all your transportation issues go away. And that is real intelligent thinking. And these are not, so gravity-based offshore structures are there, so many of them globally. And it is important now, therefore, to think on these lines and bring about a change. And this is possible when we have an integrated thinking about what we are doing when we are saying we will we'll use hydrogen or have 5 metric tons. The other big gap that we have in our hydrogen mission is we are not talking about transportation. We're talking about general infrastructure and all of it, grid and all of it. But realize this, you have infrastructure existing. Transportation, right now we have a gas grid. You can see the gas grid that we have, which can carry, of course, after a proper due diligence and check of the asset integrity and all of it, adequacy checks. But really, we can convert our transportation infrastructure for gas with hethane, they call it, methane and hydrogen. 5% will come to no harm. And I'll show you in some of the subsequent slides how Siemens and GE machines, this is what I wanted to show you. So all the power plants that we have, if we converted that into, rather than firing them only with fuel gas, natural gas, if we fired them with 5% hydrogen mixed in the fuel gas, it will come to no harm. Because the important thing there is the Wobbe index. Wobbe index essentially talks about the interchangeability of fuel. And the Wobbe index still stays for GE, the range is 46 to 62 megajoules per normal meter cube. 5% S2 blend makes it 52 from 53. So natural gas is 53.9, and if you put 5% hydrogen, it comes to 52.9, staying well within the Wobbe index for turbines of GE, and similar for Siemens. So from a power plant perspective, they can take the hydrogen. And if you were to replace that, if you were to actually put the hydrogen into your gas grid mixed with the gas that is flowing, you will have a huge saving. And I'd done a back of envelope calculation, and the number that I was coming to was roughly $2.5 billion in Forex. Because we import most of the LNG, most of the gas we import at $8, or so I've taken a base case of $8 per MMBtu of LNG. And if you replaced the entire, all the gas grid, if we have running at 5% hydrogen, you're saving $2.5 billion of Forex. That is in here and now. And if you had CCS, carbon capture and sequestration, if you had proven up the depleted gas fields, oil and gas fields, or saline aquifers, and if you made hubs for CCS, you could make hydrogen from thermal power plants, from any power plant, and then just capture the CO2 and put it in the ground. It seems simple, but it is possible. People are doing it. From thermal plants, it's slightly difficult, but you should have at least the infrastructure for carbon capture and sequestration. That we don't have. So the biggest thing that is missing in our hydrogen mission is that it is not integrated. There's one guy shot there, oh, green hydrogen, we do this, we do that, 5 MTPA, and realize the costs are prohibitive, because you will wait for, and here is a plan for cost reduction. Give me 30 seconds. I'll just throw it up. When I say plan, this is what are the cost components. So renewable energy has basically, if you're talking about $5 to $6 of dollars per kg of hydrogen of $4, 60% of that is renewable energy. Roughly 30% is electrolyzer. Balance of the plant capex would be 15%. And in 5% your OEM, and if you have financing risks or financing costs and what have you. So it's important that we get the cost of renewables to a very low number, roughly 10 to 20 megawatts, euros per megawatt. That is the number that we are talking about. Electrolyzer cost, we have to get to less than $250 per kilowatt. That's the number that we have to aim for electrolyzers. And the balance of the plant, it has to be lesser than that. So in all, it will add up to 1 or 2 kgs. Why that is important is it will kick off the real hydrogen economy. Let me give you a simple maths. $2 per kg of hydrogen is equal to $15 per MMBTU of LNG. And we import LNG at $8, $9, and or whatever be the long-term contracts. So even at $2, we don't have an LNG parity. LNG, so people will say, I'll use gas. Hydrogen is double the cost. So essentially, if you come to $1 per kg, you are in an LNG parity situation. And therefore, for right now, we are at $4. So if you had an LNG equivalence of that, you're talking about $30 per MMBTU of LNG equivalent. That is way, way high. It happened during COVID once, but that's way, way high. So therefore, we have to reduce the cost. So I just wanted to talk about the transportation. It is available today. Don't go into the fancy stuff of what is possible. There is one adage that we should know as Indians. Wisdom lies in knowing what to do. Skill lies in knowing how to do it, but the real virtue lies in actually doing it. So if I say, what does India and China do? India has the wisdom. But the real skill and the real virtue are those guys making it happen. We've lost the battle, if I may use the word, on solar PV to China. We shouldn't be losing it on hydrogen. It is possible. We have so much of resources. We have seawater. We have intelligence to be able to do much better on the innovation, not much better. I mean, we can do a lot of innovation. You saw that offshore plant. That's sharp thinking. And look at this in Australia, what they're doing to sort of give a fillip to innovation. Because what happens is our PhDs, our work end up in the shelves or in the libraries, and it finds it very difficult to get commercialized. So in Brisbane, in Brisbane, this is the grace period, or this is the, oh, this is the grace period. So in Brisbane, they have come up with a very bright idea. They have set up some 10 acres facility, and you can see the facility here. Whoever has come up with a new electrolyzer design and say, okay, thank you, bring it here. So they plunk that electrolyzer in, check its operations, check its sort of performance, its efficiencies. So if you're making, I know a guy whom we hired, he was from IIT Guwahati, and he'd made electrolyzers out of polymers, 3D printed it, but that stayed in his PhD thesis. I had seen it in the lab, nothing happened. If we had something like these, and we should have hundreds of these here for testing out these electrolyzers, that culture has to come where we have to move away from PhD for getting a thesis and writing a doctor to actually making things happen. And this is what Australia is doing. It costs just $10 million. You don't even lose a change. $10 million से लड़की की शादी में बड़े-बड़े लोग उड़ा देते. So we get hundreds of these in India. So make these hubs, the innovation hubs, and this is an integrated, it's not this. The real intention here was an integrated, you'll also check biofuels and other things, but make these hubs. So two messages I wanted to give today. Transportation is, we have to plug the gap in our hydrogen mission where we make it integrated, and we will do this, we will do that is in future for the transportation. Do it now. Do an adequacy check of your entire gas grid and ensure that we have carbon capture and sequestration mechanisms. Make hydrogen as if there is no tomorrow. Plug in 5% in there and save $2.5 billion in Forex. That will save us. That will fund these efforts. So let me stop here. And dependency, of course, on the energy security, energy sustainability, and energy equity. So these are the things that we have to concentrate on. We can talk on hydrogen till cows come home, but I'll give you some examples. As two articles are written for some magazines, we can have a read of different kinds of hydrogen technologies and different ways of transportation. So let me stop here. I'll take questions when we go forward. Thank you.